Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor, is set to resign, is out as that position as well as his deputy. This is what's going on right now. Of course, this comes a couple weeks, 6 weeks or so after the initial signal gate, if you will, that happened. Of course, Mike Waltz or Mike Waltz's team kind of took the fall for that. This happened, though, weeks later. It wasn't something that was done aggressively or quickly. And I think that says a lot about the Trump team and figuring out what's next. But, Will, I'm sure you got some analysis.
That's right. So when this first broke, when this story about the signal chat and the Yemen strike, and also that it was Mike Waltz, his account, that added the journalist Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic to that chat, I kind of thought he would be out early. That's normally something, an administration, they have someone that takes the fall, and normally it's that person that may have had that hand in it, whether it be a team member or the principal himself. But that there's kind of a moment where you're like, okay, we're going to shift, we're going to change direction, and you kind of get that story behind you. They didn't. They actually doubled down and stood with President Trump's national security advisor, and he had been there continuing. He was in a cabinet meeting yesterday, is still fulfilling that role. But as scrutiny has come much more into focus on Pete Hegseth from the media, that's kind of been the target from the left in the media. And it all stemmed from that Signalgate chat issue, where they've really been going hard after Pete Hegseth and trying to take him down as the Secretary of Defense.
There's a lot of conversation right now. People are saying, hey, was Mike Waltz asked to leave? Did he resign? Is he out? Is he fired? Of course, you never really know what happens behind the scenes, but I think the unofficial official word is they're using the word out a lot. So we know that this would happen. Now, Mike Waltz, remember, left a pretty high-profile position to do this. So it is unfortunate for him. I do feel for him and his family, because this mistake potentially led to him leaving office as well, because he was serving in Congress in an area of Florida that they just had their election to replace him. That happened only a couple of weeks ago. He was on a lot of committees. He was the first Green Beret ever to be serving in that position. So a guy who has a bright future, and I hope for him still has a bright future. Every time I've spent with him has always been positive, whether that was virtually or when we've done Zooms with him, because he just seemed like a solid guy. So though he may be taking the fall here, hopefully it is not the end.
I expect it will be a resignation, but a forced out resignation. He's also his deputy, Alex Wong, will be leaving. He's the deputy national security advisor. And as Logan, you mentioned, this isn't a confirmation situation where someone leaves and they have to go back to the Senate and get a new national security advisor confirmed. This is a position that serves at the pleasure of the president and you're just hired for it. You don't have to go through the confirmation process. But I do think it's important to look back at this, because I think the president wanted to show strength initially with his team when the Signalgate, the whole chat about the war plans and whatnot with Yemen and attacking the Houthis, by not letting anyone take the fall. They said, He said originally, Mike has learned his lesson and we've moved forward, and he had been around for weeks now. I think what is pushing this right now is all the pressure the left and the media are putting on Pete Hegseth. I think that President Trump stands by Pete Hegseth. I think he believes in the mission that he has tasked Pete Hegseth with, as well as that role does have to go through Senate confirmation. So if the pressure isn't taken off to some degree, and they're concerned that this could consume the Department of Defense with all these people coming out trying to say it's chaotic and all of that if they don't do some sort of pivot and maybe try to change the narrative or show that there's something else happening and that they are making changes, they may be concerned that Pete Hegseth may be backed into a corner and in a place that he can't recover from. So they say, all right, we're going with a national security advisor. It is who the logical person, when that story first came out, would have been to take the fall for it, but it's just weeks later than we expected.
Yeah, I think that we weren't really talking about it right now. So it is one of those things that's kind of odd to now all of a sudden bring up. But we don't know really what goes on behind the scenes. We don't necessarily know. There could be something else. There could have been more investigation done into that or other chats or other things that's come to light. I know also his deputy, they said, right, is going away. Now, a lot of times he was probably brought in by him. So you'd assume he probably is maybe loyal to Waltz. But also, you don't know what the details are from that as well. And maybe taking the fall for something that happened with his team in general, not just with him directly. I do want to hear from you. A lot of you are watching right now, and that means a lot of you are interested in this as the details start to emerge of Mike Waltz being removed, outed, fired. We don't know the proper word yet. We'll find out, I'm sure, later, but I'm sure the word will be somewhat like resigned. That's sort of the unofficial, official word always. They don't try to defame people on the way out unless there's just something really egregious. And again, he's a good guy, someone who I really enjoyed speaking to, who I think has an immense amount of information and resources, and he's someone that I hope can recover from this and have a thriving career. Actually, I think he is someone who was, to me, before all of this, was in line for a potential presidential run in his future. It felt that way, and hopefully it still can feel that way. This could just be a bump in the road, but we'll see. And hopefully President Trump, we don't know what he'll say or what he does. Sometimes he's good with these guys leaving. Sometimes they become an enemy pretty quick. Yeah. And quickly they become someone that he's willing to sort of throw under the bus, if you will. So we'll see what happens here.
As we also look at this, because this replacement could come quicker than others because it doesn't require confirmation. There's some names. Some people are talking about Steve Witkoff, who is the envoy that is doing the principal negotiations with Russia, with Ukraine, with Iran.
Yeah, can you serve in both of those positions? 'Cause I feel like
yes.
he's doing I don't know if he's doing a good job, but he's doing a job right now. He's working.
That's right. Yeah, because I think both of those, one is an envoy position and the other is national security advisor. I think your national security advisor could be your envoy. I do think, though, it would come at a cost for the president because the national security advisor is typically there with the president. Their office is very close to the Oval Office. And so that you have this person that you can get advice from and be a sounding board and kind of help corral information to you in a real-time basis, I think it would be a little unusual to have a high-profile envoy with some very high-profile negotiations also serve in that role. So I think Steve Witkoff would probably have to pull back from that. Now, I know he is going there for those negotiations. I don't know how much he is just there kind of as the manager or if he is the actual person that is doing the negotiations or if it's his team. I think that would have to be more fleshed out for the public to understand how that would work. But typically, the national security advisor needs to be in Washington or travel with the president if the president is traveling because of that relationship and how they discuss matters of national security and great importance. I think the other thing, there are many people that didn't like Mike Waltz in this position from the more war-averse right. And
yeah, he certainly was someone who was maybe a bit more on the path to military intervention. As a Green Beret, as someone that was serving, it felt like he was, again, he served actively in combat, but then you had the opposite. You had a Tulsi Gabbard who also served, but took a very different approach. And that Tulsi Gabbard approach is a bit more in line with, you'd say, the current Republican group.
Right. But to me, I think why having multiple voices in the room, as President Trump has put together, you have Tulsi Gabbard, you have J.D. Vance, who's more dovish, as they say, more war averse, find other options first. And even Pete Hegseth to a degree, he's not wanting to jump right in to military action, but use it as the tool if needed. I think having a mix of voices actually is a positive thing to some degree for an administration. That's why having Mike Waltz, who is very strong on China, pushing back against China, very strong on pushing back against Iran, but having people that can maybe moderate his voice and also him maybe moderate some voices that are like, we're never going to fire a missile or rocket ever, is kind of an important thing for a president, to hear a diverse set of ideas and then make the decision. President Trump likes having that around him. So I don't know if it'll be another national security advisor that's more in line with Mike Waltz, or because of the cabinet members that he has around, if they're like, hey, here are some other people you should look at. And going forward, if it will be someone that's more kind of in line with that Tulsi Gabbard, J.D. Vance style foreign policy, that's yet to be seen. But as if all these reports are true, that he is out and his deputy are out, we are going to see some big changes at the White House very shortly.
We are so excited to announce the ACLJ's brand new app, completely redesigned to provide you with the best tools available to partner with us at the ACLJ. You can watch the daily Secular program, sign the petitions, customize your ACLJ membership experience, donate with the click of a button, and receive up-to-the-minute critical updates that the mainstream media can't censor. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to your phone's app store, search ACLJ, and click install. It's that simple.